In this video, we're going to look at one last analysis tool from this data set that we've been working with in our previous series of videos. We're going to look at the tool called Erase. So we have clipped, that's how we got this lovely towns in a watershed. We have buffered, which is how we got this lovely kind of snaky looking buffer of all of our rivers in this watershed. Now we're going to talk about the Erase tool. And I'm going to simplify this, just kind of bring down to just these two layers. There we go. Oh, and I think the green and blue overlaps okay, so I won't fiddle with those too much. There may come a time when instead of clipping out, meaning taking some data that is within some area and using that instead you might want to remove an area from your data. In this example, we might imagine, this is just for imagination, that these buffers represent some kind of flood risk. Now, please note, this is just an imagination. Calculating flood risk is much more complex than this, but we're making this a simple calculation or a simple representations here. If this is indicating, that risk or that area around the stream, so there's our stream and there's our 100 meters. If we wanted to understand within our town here, if we wanted to understand the areas that weren't within 100 meters, that were not within this 100-meter zone that we've identified, well, we could, there's probably some complicated way that we could do some math to it, a subtraction. Maybe that's not too complicated, but what we wouldn't have is a spatial representation of that. I could fiddle with the symbology of this all I wanted to, but I wouldn't have a super clean way of showing the areas not within this 100-meter zone on this town data here. So what I could do is instead just remove all of this area from my file. I can do that with my tool called Erase. I'm just going to look up Erase here. There it is in the analysis tool. I'm going to hover over my question mark and read my help. Erase creates a feature class by overlaying the input features with the erase features. Only those portions of the input features falling outside the erase features are copied to the output feature class. Oh, that's a lot. Got a lot to work with there, but I think we can handle it. Essentially, once again, we have an input and a feature. Remember, your inputs are safe. You cannot do an erase so wrong that you hurt your initial data. It will be there. It will be fine. Don't worry about it. And again, you do your erase backwards. That's fine. Delete it. Do it the right way. The input is what we want to keep once again. So in this case, I want to keep my towns, my areas of the towns. What do I want to remove? I want to remove everything that's within that 100-meter buffer, my fake flood zone. So inputs, my towns, I want to erase or remove or get rid of my buffer, my river buffer there. And so I'm going to have an output that's going to have a hole in it, or in my case, many holes. Right, let's put that together. My input's what I'm keeping. I'm keeping my towns in the watershed. Erase is what I'm erasing. That's my buffer. The output feature class has a very gross name here. So let's call this towns without buffer. That looks good. Let's see how this goes. And once again, Erase, as all these tools, especially in new Arc, I am been around the GIS game for a while. I much preferred old Arc, the old version. Maybe you are familiar with it, where it would change the display colors of your new files because it was a lot easier to see what was going on. This, I can see towns without buffer has shown up in my table of contents, but since it has the same symbology, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to just start turning stuff off. I'm going to turn off my old towns. I'm going to turn off my buffer. Oh, would you look at that? That's looking pretty good. And I can see that I have all of my buffer zones removed. In fact, if I turn that buffer back on, it fits perfectly in there. Another good reason to turn off your layers from time to time So you can actually see what's going on. So there you have it. Erase gets rid of stuff that you don't need within your shapefile. Between erase in this video, buffer and clip in previous videos, you're well on your way to becoming a geospatial analyst.